I know we talk a lot about early engagement of procurement, and we generally say if sourcing is engaged early, then things would be different. And I think this is one thing which is missing. Whenever the businesses are being set up, procurement is generally considered as a process which will deliver cost savings, will work on the compliance. But the moment you start putting this in your corporate agenda, that it has to be deeply integrated with the core business, things could be very different. For example, if you know that anything that we are doing as a third party purchase has to go through the sourcing department, if this is your policy in the organization being followed by everyone, things will be very, very different. And it's not about just the cost savings, which generally businesses see that sourcing is all about cost savings. You need to understand they can come and tell you where the risk to the business could be. It could be a supplier risk, but this might impact in the core operations of the business. So it's very, very important that is considered. And sourcing can actually unlock a lot of values, I would say, for the business as they kind of deeply integrate in it. Definitely, there has been a big shift in the roles and responsibilities, the value, the perception about procurement, especially after COVID, I would say. But with AI coming, things have become much faster. If we talk about the 5 to 10 years of journey, I'm sure one thing that would come out is sort of personalized service that would be there for the businesses. The way we see the consumer market, wherein when we actually call up someone or when we are consumer, we know that some of the solutions are being tailored for us. Now, this is what I see would happen, and why this would happen. Sourcing professionals, if they have the right set of digital literacy, they know what tools, applications are available for them. Things would be different. Second, they will have more and more data in a simpler and better, I would say, view, which they can understand. And third, with awareness of stakeholders and having business acumen in place, with the right mix of these things, I think procurement can deliver much better. As I said, personalized service, right? You will know who's my stakeholder, which company I work for, what is the historical data, what are the trends, who are my suppliers, what kind of risks I have seen, what are the risks which I have not seen, but I'm getting out of a lot of these AI-based tools. Once you have all those things in your mind, your dialogue with the business would be very, very different, in future. So you'll be more smarter person who will be talking business, not procurement. There are many. How we use data, I'll go by some of the examples that I have. There are some commodities, some deals that we do, which we are not subject matter experts, because a lot of us are generic buyers beyond, certain category experts. Within category also, you can be expert on technology, you can be expert on marketing, but with all the new things coming, do you know everything? Guided buying, front door, these are a couple of examples that we have. There's a lot of time being spent by procurement people in responding to the queries, which they just act as coordinator. Think of a scenario, supplier comes to you, says, and what happens to my payment? You are not responsible for payment. But just because you are now the face to the supplier, you have to go to the P2P team and get the response and give it. Why not have a tool like a front door or a supplier portal given to the supplier? Let them put their query there, let them get the response directly from the system. So this is what the automations and AI definitely are helping. So we have seen a big shift there, that we don't have to do, I would say, things which doesn't fall under our job description or doesn't add any value by being a coordinator. I would say, I think I touched upon it earlier. So it has to be the right mix of, the data, right mix of technology, awareness that you have about, the supplier's commodity, your stakeholder. So if you have the right mix of this is what I would call is, the skill required for a high performing team or an individual. And you may call it that this is a mix of digital fluency and commercial agility that, the person would have. I would say when you have all these things which I mentioned, if you have data around you, if you have examples around you, if you know the benchmarks, if you know your stakeholder, your style of communication would change. You will now go with the data and would do a sort of a storytelling to your stakeholder. And when you do a storytelling, the impact is very different. One very common thing that we all know, when you watch a cinema, you remember the dialogues, you remember the scenes, right? Because It's very constructive communication. It's well practiced, well rehearsed thing. And this is where I believe, when the procurement person will start talking to the stakeholder with, very clear communication, things definitely would be very, very different then. I won't say that I'll talk about just Uber. I'll talk about fast-paced environment in the large organizations. Uh, Definitely, cost savings remain, I would say the base. But where these companies have evolved, one definitely is the spend that you are actually influencing, right? If you have say X billion dollars, and if you are say influencing 60% of that spend, which we call addressable spend or influencing spend, that is one of the metric. Reason being, the more spend you influence, the more value you bring to the organization, not just in terms of the cost savings. You actually then figure out the risk in that particular commodity or that transaction or that function, right? So that is one of the metrics. Second is the stakeholder satisfaction is very, very important. And how stakeholder satisfaction would come? You can't simply send a survey and say, how did I do this deal, or rate me from 1 to 10, right? Stakeholder satisfaction has to be very different, wherein the stakeholder understand that, no, the person who's talking to me is a business partner and not just a procurement person. And in his or her mind, it should be the journey that, both the partners go through. That's the second thing which would be there. Third is the business continuity and the risk management. If we have seen a lot of I would say events in last 5 to 6 years. The whole world has seen, be it the supply chain disruptions coming because of the trade wars, or the logistics challenging, or even the COVID. Sourcing and procurement, their value has improved. Why? Because business has seen that they now talk about risk. They go and find ways of running the operations, be it the alternate suppliers or alternate products, or telling us upfront that, oh, there is a risk which might come to your business. So when start talking the business language, it's a very different metric. And this is what I've seen a lot of the complex, large, fast-paced and companies have been talking about. One more I would say is the innovation. I know innovation is in discussion for years, right? But I think the pace of bringing the innovative products and services is definitely something which is impacting a lot of stakeholders. I have seen it so many times that when you keep talking to suppliers, you keep understanding what's happening in a domain, pick up certain important things out of them, go back and talk to your stakeholders. When you give them the idea with the story building, as I said earlier, can we do this, right? Can we pilot this? And let's see how do we kind of improve against our competition on the overall business perspective. Things are very different. Your stakeholders definitely listen to you, and that's how you kind of hear them talking in forums about you. We talk a lot about negotiation skills or stakeholder management. One key thing I would say personally, I believe, is the business acumen, right? How many of people really know how their business works? How does an individual transaction happen? For example, if you are selling a FMCG item, does this person in sourcing really know how that product is built and how that is sold? If it is a service or a technology product, do you really know how that transaction happened? For example, for us, how does a trip happen? What are the components of, the trip cost that you kind of, charge? If you understand that, your discussion will be very different. Your maturity level will be very, very different. So business acumen is one of the skill I would strongly kind of believe is required. Second, definitely digital awareness, right? Because of all the tech solutions, the evolution of it is much faster now. If you have great digital literacy, if you can figure out, okay, what's coming and apply that in your system, that's the second skill that is required. Then definitely stakeholder management, as I said earlier, it's very, very important, because if your stakeholders are quite happy with you, definitely things are easy for you. You can deliver more impact in the business. Then I would say fourth is the commercial creativity, because all these things, you still are a commercial person, you still are a procurement person, you have to deliver an innovative commercial deal for the business. So these are some of the skills I would say are really important. You should not simply just look at, okay, how traditionally we have been procuring and building the pricing sheets or pricing metrics. One has to look at can I have an outcome based model? Fine, you can have a unit based price, but what if it doesn't satisfy the outcome you were looking at? So why can't we talk outcome based model with our partners? if you deliver this, then I pay you this, otherwise there is a penalty. If you deliver more than this, I give you incentive. Now that's a very different, I know sometimes it could be risky, tough to convince stakeholder, but that's where I see the value. Build versus buy. Now this is something which has been there for years, right? Whether you should build a product or you should buy it, right? This is the commercial creativity. Yes, if you go with the facts and talk to the business what should be the right model, that's very, very important. Third, I would say gain share model. Again, I know this is not very popular in sourcing, but selling organization or sales organization, this has been one of the tool for them where it's not easy for them to sell to the business because they are not aware what benefit would come. They start selling it on a gain share model. I'm like, why can't procurement think it always, right? You impact my I would say bottom line, I impact your top line, right? So can we do this? Now these are commercial creativity models, tough to sell but worth, I would say, giving a try. That's what I would say. Interesting question. I would say it should be driving smarter decisions, one strategic stop at a time.